You guys remember high school? A time where the only thing you were worried about was to remember to take your gym clothes to school, fucking up on your Spanish test, and what your crush who sat next to you in history thought whenever she heard your Backstreet Boy ringtone? Don't you just hate how cringy that was? Through the years, humanity's had a complicated relationship with embarrassing moments, what with the invention of TikTok and all that. But the most embarrassing moments you always remember is the first time you asked out your crush. Even as adults, talking to someone and putting yourself out there in the hopes that the person you like feels the same way is extremely difficult, and nobody's a fan of doing it. Unless you're Channing Tatum or whatever, then it's pretty fine. That is, until dating apps were invented and made talking, or rather texting, someone much easier because you were protected behind a screen. In fact, these dating apps have become so popular that they're kind of becoming the preferred way of meeting people nowadays. And this was even before a little known virus came around. However, one of these apps has grown so quickly in just the past few years that it's pretty phenomenal how it became so popular in the first place. That app is Bumble, a dating app I'm sure most of you are already familiar with, where people basically take control of who they want to speak to by swiping right on the ones they find attractive and left on the ones who, not so much. It's basically the same as Tinder, who pioneered this type of virtual dating, but with one massive change. Only women can start a conversation. Now, at the time, and even more importantly now, this is a huge feature, as it basically stopped women from getting 23 dick pics when they matched with a guy that they weren't even sure they liked yet. And it was a brilliant selling point. And who was the genius that thought of this groundbreaking idea? Well, she's just the youngest female billionaire in the world. Pfft, no biggie if you haven't heard of her yet. Whitney Wolfe Herd started her story at Tinder, where she was the co-founder and the vice president of marketing. She spearheaded Tinder's marketing efforts and was involved in one of the greatest startup success stories in the smartphone age. However, as they say, the bigger they are, the harder they fall, as Herd soon found herself in one of the biggest dramas in the tech era. The year is 2014. Herd files for sexual harassment case against her boss and boyfriend at the time, Justin Mateen. Now Mateen called her a whore and a gold digger, and bombarded her with threatening and derogatory text messages, even kicking her out of her own company and getting her co-founder title revoked. Now this all ended in a climax where Mateen was suspended and resigned, and Herd got $1 million as compensation with a non-discussion clause. Herd, rather than sulk about it, quickly came round with one of the greatest revenge stories, rivaling that of John Wick. She launched her own company 3 months later, entering the dating app market where 90% of apps fail, and building her company worth billions in 3 years flat. During her lawsuit against Tinder, she moved back to her hometown in Texas, saying she needed to get away from all the hate she was getting on social media due to the fallout. Not letting the haters get to her though, she already started development on another app, Mercy, a female-only social network rooted in compliments and kindness. This was the preliminary app for Bumble. This is when she received a more unsolicited approach, but this time with a more positive encounter. An email from a Russian businessman, Andrei Andreev, the owner of another popular dating app, Badoo. Andreev, having previously met Herd when she worked at Tinder, was clearly impressed by her passion and energy, and been following the Tinder fallout closely. Herd ghosted Andreev, but instead decided to go visit him directly in London. Not beating around the bush, eh? I like it. He offered her a job as CMO at Badoo. But as you do when you receive a lucrative, high-status position from a company, Herd rejected him. Instead, she explained she wanted to start a new company not in the dating world. But subsequently, these two ended up walking around for days after their initial meeting, and Andreev eventually convinced her to go back into the dating world, making an initial investment of about $10 million for launch marketing and committed additional funds to fuel growth. He took 79% of the company, but Herd would be the founder, the CEO, and have a 20% stake in the company. She and Andreev brought in two of her fellow former Tinder executives, these people, to design the new app backend and user interface. One night, over cocktails, Herd stumbled upon Bumble's special sauce. I always wanted to have a scenario where the guy didn't have my number, but I had his, she recalls telling Andreev. What if women make the first move, send the first message, and if they don't, the match just disappears after 24 hours? Like in Cinderella, the pumpkin in the carriage? It'd be symbolic of a Sadie Hawkins dance. Going after it, girls ask first. What if we could hardwire that into a product? It was the kind of brilliant tweak that comes with someone who understands the target demographic because they're in it. And bang, Bumble was born. This requirement that women must text first not only challenges the antiquated dating stereotypes and empowers women, but also cuts down on the amount of harassment and abuse that plagues many online dating sites. Bumble takes its commitment to create a safe and respectable platform even further with technology that can identify whether or not a picture sent on the app may contain a lewd image. Users are given a warning if they have been sent a potentially inappropriate photo and can choose whether to see it or not. Furthermore, Bumble's partnership with Vital Voices means that for every first move made on the app, the company donates to a woman-focused nonprofit. And lastly, Bumble is unique in that it is not only a platform for dating, but for socializing and networking as well. In fact, it is the first app of its kind to combine dating, finding friends, and career building into one single platform. Bumble's core free features are free to use. That means people can swipe and chat free of charge. But the way Bumble monetizes its user base is through premium add-on features called Spotlight. Spotlight works similar to Tinder's boost function. By paying in Bumble coins, a user is put in front of the match queue and thus receives increased visibility. Other features included with Spotlight are match again with old connections, receive unlimited search filters, swipe without limits, and extended matches by another 24 hours. These premium add-ons work across all three Bumble functions. Boost falls under the subscription business model, and that charges users fees on a recurring basis. This is similar to how Netflix operates, where users can use different price packages that are paid on a monthly basis. Subscription models smartly allows Bumble to have a predictable revenue. They also allow for deeper customer relationships. Customers are often deeply committed to their subscription and therefore use them very frequently. Basically, it's the I bought the damn thing, so I might as well use it mentality. That allows the company to deepen their customer relationship. For instance, it becomes easier to collect customer feedback, as customers are more willing to share information. You then get to know them a lot better compared to other businesses, which only sells you a product once and then leaves you alone with it, so Bumble has an edge. A deeper customer relationship also means that it's easier to raise prices. With Bumble being such a success, the company is able to expand out to other types of services, such as Bumble BFF and Bumble Biz. However, the problem with a subscription model, for dating apps at least, is that once people find love, they often move on, and so Bumble needs to stay on top of pulling new users in. Luckily for Bumble, the swipe right formula of dating apps has been proven to not only get people's attention, but it actually gets them hooked. You see, human beings are a very needy bunch and require a lot of attention, kind of like a pet that won't leave you alone. When you find something we like, we want more of it, and getting a match triggers that need. In fact, a psychologist named Dr. John McCallany likened the surge of endorphins you get when someone matches with you to that addictive nature of gambling. The more swipes you get, the more you want. And that, in the end, is what keeps users coming back, even if they give up or find the app useless. It becomes a need for people. Influencer marketing is where you use influencers, such as Instagram models, to help you sell a particular product. Working with micro-influencers is influencer marketing on a smaller scale. Brands partner with individuals who have between 1,000 and 10,000 followers on social media. They're typically well known in their particular area of interest and have very high rates of engagement from their audiences. Brands can extend their reach in niche areas by pursuing micro-influencers. Influencer marketing continues to be effective in pretty much every industry, but micro-influencer marketing is still a long way to go in terms of effectiveness. Bumble has managed to find success in micro-influencer marketing. Now, many studies have shown that real humans will always outperform brand ambassadors in terms of advertising on social media. And mostly, this is because people trust a friendly face way more than they do a massive corporation trying to sell you stuff that you don't need. Bumble understands this, and their campaigns are aimed at organic content pushed across social media through their ambassadors, versus promoting their own brand agenda through influencers. By doing so, they empower their ambassadors, letting them tell their story. You'll often see brand ambassadors with Bumble merch on their Instagram, with an even more subtle Bumble tag on the bottom corner of the video. The audience understands exactly what's up, but the content is so natural and organic that it's not even an issue. It's the difference between seeing a paid promotion on a YouTube video that you can tell is scripted and fake versus seeing someone genuinely express their opinion and enthusiasm about a product. Now, the year is 2016, and Bumble is growing quite steadily, with over 12 million users. But how did they manage to get to over 66 million users in just 2 years? What on earth could have happened to bolster the popularity of this anti-misogynistic, equality-driven company by this much? On October 5th, 2017, actress Ashley Judd told the New York Times she was sexually harassed by producer Harvey Weinstein, sending a shockwave of similar allegations all across Hollywood, and revealing to her the horrible acts that these men committed and managed to get away with, until now. 11 days later, on October 16th, the hashtag #MeToo was created by actress Alyssa Milano to encourage women who had gone through a similar experience to speak up and break the silence and show the world this was not an isolated incident. After that, many industries began changing due to the overwhelming amount of sexual harassment cases that were revealed. But Bumble was different. Bumble thrived. Bumble was always about female empowerment, and the Me Too movement was secretly just what it needed to become the dating app sensation it is today. In the lead up to the Me Too movement, Bumble announced a partnership with the Anti-Defamation League and pledged to have the no-tolerance policy on misogynist, abusive, or inappropriate behavior. Also in October, the same month where Me Too kicked off, Bumble launched its Bumble Biz platform to connect professionals with contacts who could help in their careers. Now, considering the Me Too movement may have caused a lot of women to lose their jobs, or perhaps even forced out like founder Wolfe Herd was, this platform launch was perfectly timed and probably helped many women find newer and safer jobs. In 2018, Bumble launched the Bumble Fund, which aimed to help fund female-led businesses. All these decisions were certainly influenced by the Me Too movement. But since Bumble had already solidified its reputation for focusing on the empowerment of women, it was just the sort of public awareness that Bumble needed to get support, and the public praised Bumble for it. Bumble was now no longer the newest dating app in town, but it was also the hottest. If these decisions had been made by any other dating app company, I assure you the public would not have reacted as positively to it at all. They would have seen it as more of an ingenuine gimmick to capitalize on the movement. Now, Bumble was not only getting the support of the public, but it was also getting the support of many big-name celebrities due to the positive press surrounding Bumble at the time. People like actress, singer, producer, Jesus, what hasn't she done? Priyanka Chopra, who's one of India's highest paid entertainers, became an ambassador and investor in Bumble in 2018 and was heavily involved in Bumble's expansion to India later that year. Now, Bumble had used its good press to expand to newer areas, where their user base could expand significantly. This showed because Bumble's users increased from 35 million in 2018 to 75 million in 2019, a more than twofold increase. But would this be enough to compete with the new and emerging dating apps? With every year that went by, Bumble's pay-for-premium subscription model became more and more alienating to new customers, as only 10% of Bumble users were found to actually pay for Bumble's subscription package. So what would happen when dating apps emerged that didn't force its users to pay for premium features? In 2021, there is no shortage of dating apps to choose from, with old favorites like Tinder being the biggest competition for Bumble. But whilst Tinder is the fiercest competitor, I'd like to focus on another, more recent dating app, Facebook dating. Oh yes, I'm not joking. Facebook dating might be Bumble's next biggest competitor. Now, I know many of you are already laughing at the thought that Facebook has basically jumped the shark at this point and decided to enter the dating market, but it actually makes more sense than you think. Unlike Bumble and Tinder, Facebook already had a dedicated user base even before it began its dating section. And it's not a small user base either, with currently over 2.74 billion active monthly users. This puts Facebook in a much more favorable position than Bumble because it can reach out to many more people with a severe decrease in its marketing costs, since they can advertise directly on their Facebook platform, and even Instagram for that matter. With over 2 billion potential Facebook dating users, it's clear that the potential for Facebook dating to grow their user base is far greater than any other app. On top of that, it seems that Facebook dating is aiming for a more evolved approach to the dating market. Yes, the app is still a swipe-right, location-based matching scheme, but there are many unique features that evolve the dating app formula. For example, Facebook dating has a secret crush feature where the user can compile a list of people they're attracted to from their Facebook profile. If one of those people on the list has also listed them in their secret crush list, then the two of them will be notified and potentially kickstart something. This is very interesting to me because it mimics the old high school ways of dating, where often people were too afraid to ask out their crushes because they were too embarrassed. Now Facebook has essentially found a way around this by essentially making friends who are mutually attracted to each other without the awkward "does she like me back" part of the high school experience. Where the hell was this feature when I was in high school sweating my ass off trying to ask girls to prom? So what does all of this success mean for Bumble? We've got a multi-billion-dollar dating app company who has just received one of the biggest natural marketing push events in history, and now it is facing fresh competition from Facebook, while also still battling it out with Tinder. Sounds like Herd and her bumblebees are cornered from all sides at this point, because amidst all this competition, Bumble has just been publicly listed for the first time in what is known as an initial public offering. This is where shares of the company are made available to the public and can raise large amounts of capital for the company very quickly. What follows is usually the company getting traded on the stock market, which Bumble has already achieved and is doing very well. And to continue the good news for Bumble, Herd has recently been named the youngest female to reach the billion-dollar status. Talk about a success story! And this news has absolutely impacted the stock prices for Bumble as well, showing massive increase in stock price the day she was declared a billionaire. So, it's definitely safer to say the future looks very bright for Bumble. Its share prices are up, the user base continues to expand every day, and now the world is finally transitioning into an era where equality is much more prioritized. So what's next for this behemoth of a company? We don't think Bumble is about to make its priority features free just to compete with Facebook. That would just be too much money they'd be losing. And to be honest, just with the reputation Bumble has for being a much safer place for women and men alike, is probably enough to keep growing its user base. Perhaps recruiting more ambassadors like Priyanka Chopra would be a good move, since it might be a lot to bolster their stock options if another high-profile celebrity joins the Bumble ranks. What is certain about Bumble's future is this: the choice has never been clearer for where you'd want to safely meet your next match.